everybody. I am so happy to see such a great turnout, and it was really fun. Probably within, I don't know, 1 hour of sending out the invitation initially, we filled up with 40 RSVPs. We had a few people that had to cancel, and then we put some extra chairs in. So happy to see everybody, and I am really happy that you all chose to come here and to be inspired. And it's really my sincere hope that that is exactly what happens to you in the next hour, whether it's just like a word that you hear or an idea that pops into your head, whatever. If you have a little seed that you leave with, then we've accomplished what we want to accomplish. For those who may not know me, my name is Mary Ellen Scanlon, and I run the coaching program at RJO. And what I do is I partner with employees who want to grow personally and or professionally and just move forward in their lives. And I also put on these personal enhancement programs, also known as PEP, periodically throughout the year. And I love what I do because I get to be inspired when I see people move forward in their lives. So I'm curious, what are some, what do you think of when you hear the word inspiration? A couple of people. Art. Pardon me? Art. Art, okay. What do you think, what does the term inspiration mean to you?
I think, yeah, when you make a difference in someone's life, I believe.
Making a difference, that's great. Chris Anderson, who is the founder of TED Talks, defines it as expanding a sense of possibility. And I really like that definition. It's kind of like expanding, becoming a better person. I have always defined inspiration as being in spirit. And what that means to me is like having something in your heart that moves you. And whether it is also art or music or hearing something, hearing a word or seeing an action that somebody takes, or just listening to the little whisper that is in our hearts that propels us to move forward. And a lot of times we don't always know what the end picture is going to look like, but to me, inspiration is when we hear something to just take the next right step forward. And I think that's what you're going to hear with our speakers today. We have an awesome lineup, and they may not say these words of just taking the next step, but listen for that and see that. Because really, inspiration, getting something in our hearts and not doing anything with it, it's just dead then. You know, inspiration also means taking action if we want to move forward in our lives. And our four speakers have certainly taken a lot of action in their lives. And I also know that everybody has inspirational stories. But anyway, I hope you really get some seeds from today. We are going to let all the speakers speak and finish, and then we'll have a Q&A time. And then I ask, out of respect to me and our four speakers, that you put your cell phones away for the next hour. So, thank you, and let's welcome our first speaker, our fearless leader, Gerry Corcoran.
Thanks, Mary Ellen. I got to get wired up here, guys. Can you hear me, Lulu? Communicating with Lulu. Coming in, Lulu. Well, thank you all for being here today. This is quite a great group, a great diverse group from the company, and I hope you guys learned something from this or get something out of it, as Mary Ellen said. I'm really excited to be here with three other tremendous people in our organization that are going to be presenting today. I think we've got a great diverse group of people, different segments of our business, different segments of life, different segments of the world. We've got a great cosmopolitan group here. And I also want to thank Mary Ellen for doing these PEP events. These things have been tremendous. I've heard tremendous feedback for it, and I have to be honest with you, it's the first one I've attended, but I've heard great things, and so maybe more people will join us in going forward. So let's first address the announcement Mary Ellen said about me. Gerry Corcoran, our fearless leader. Well, I'm up here right now. I'm a little nervous, you know. I do have a bit of stage fright, even at this young age of 62. And that actually is something very, very interesting, because when I was in college, my father kind of noticed I was shy. And he said, Gerry, you should take a speech class or something at school. And I went to Loyola University here in Chicago. So I signed up for Speech 101. And I was enthusiastic about it. My dad was excited about it. And I walked in the room, and the room was largely 3 or 4 guys and maybe 25 girls. I was like, well, that's, for a shy person, that wasn't very good either. So we started class, and the teacher was teaching us things like, you know, how to prep for a speech, subject matter studies, outlines, things like that. And they gave everyone a schedule when your first 5-minute speech was going to be. And when that day arrived for me, I thought I was pretty well prepared, and I was walking to the building for class, and I walked right by the door, never went into the class, and never returned again. I dropped that class. But years later, I would come to grips with these kind of fears, and I've actually testified twice in Congress to the House Agricultural Committee, so it's not always easy to do, and maybe the fear and insecurities don't go away, but you battle through them. And I get a little emotional about this stuff, so bear with me. So I stand here today, I do have butterflies in my stomach. And like I said, you have to come to accept the butterflies and accept being nervous. But it shouldn't be a reason to be afraid. It's just part of who you are. Let me tell you a little bit about my background. I grew up in Skokie, Illinois. Does anybody know where Skokie is? All right. Well, when I grew up in Skokie in the 60s and 70s, it was largely a Jewish community. And I was like one of the few Catholics in all of Skokie, I think. But I was really proud because I went to Evanston Township High School, and I had great parents, and I was not prejudiced by religion, by race, by anything. So it was really, in a way, we all talk about diversity today. I was introduced to diversity when I was a young kid. But we grew up modestly. My dad was a World War II vet. He became a policeman. My mom was a stay-at-home mother until we all went to school, and then she became a full-time worker, really for the rest of her life. We lived in a modest house. I shared a bedroom with 2 brothers. My sisters had a bedroom. Of course, my mom and dad had a bedroom, and we had 1 bathroom. So it was very, very modest. And when I was young, I noticed that other people were different than us. They may have had more things, more cars, better clothes. I noticed that fathers are around on weekends. My dad worked weekends. When he was a policeman, he worked his police shifts, and when he was off, he worked at the factory. And so I just realized things were a little bit different for us than others. It wasn't wrong, it just was real. So I guess I was a bit envious of them, and maybe that was the start of my dream. How am I going to get to a level that I'm not today? Didn't know that at the time, but I think back about that, that was probably the start of it. So, in my teen years, I began forming my work ethic, empathy for others, and ambition to succeed. All this was represented through cutting lawns, delivering newspapers, caddying, working at grocery stores, parking cars, and I had a great job in the summers working at a hospital. Actually, I didn't mind working. I enjoyed having the money in my pocket. It gave me some freedom. It gave me some choices. And one of the big choices I made, it's just kind of funny, is I bought a Schwinn Stingray bicycle. Now, you guys are all too young to remember these things, but these things were the fad. And the bicycle cost $70, which was a lot of money. So I saved probably 25 weeks in a row of my paper route money to buy my own bike. And I delivered 50 newspapers a day 7 days a week, had to be delivered before 7:30 in the morning. Anybody guess what they paid me for that in the 60s? Give it a guess. $5? No, $3.30 a week. And that, by the way, was 365 days a year, 366 on a leap year. I'm not sure if I worked a leap year or not. Well, with my mom and dad both working, I did a lot at home as well. As I got older in high school and college, I took care of the outside of the house. I did a lot of laundry. I cooked a lot of meals. I really didn't feel that as a burden. It was just, it actually made me feel good to help out at a home. But so far, everything I told you sounds like, God, Gerry was an angel.
Oh, we know better.
Gerry was no angel. I got in plenty of trouble in my teenage years and my young years. And so I got to be balanced about my story. There was the, as my dad would say, the good Gerry and the bad Gerry. So anyhow, I was a hard worker. I hustled. I seldom missed a day of work. But when it came to school, it was a big difference. School wasn't easy for me. I was good in math, but not so good in everything else. But I loved school. I loved making friends. I loved playing sports. I'm pretty sure I had some kind of ADD or dyslexia. Is that the right way to pronounce it? With Word, you know, some of the computerized software we have, I just see so many grammar checks for me that are like, this word's over here, that word's over here, and I constantly have to proofread my work because I drop words, I mix up words. There's something there. I was never diagnosed, but no one was back then. So you just had to figure out how to get through, all right? There was no magic pill. You just kind of fought through. You had to figure out how to get the passing grade. So when I went off to college, you know, I was determined to get through college, and I did get through it. But I had a lot of C's, I had a few B's, probably a few more D's, but I didn't have any F's. I really learned how to persevere and how to survive, even with whatever disability I had. And it could have been, part of it could have been the beer drinking I did in college too. I mean, it wasn't all any kind of disability, but I had to get through because I knew college was going to open doors for me. I had all these friends of mine that were all going to college or going to graduate, and I didn't want to be the idiot loser who didn't get a college degree, which we know is ridiculous, but that's how I felt. And I wanted to do it for my mom and dad. Well, when I graduated from college, the real work was ahead of me. I did graduate with an accounting degree, but honestly, I didn't know much about accounting when I graduated. And I didn't have a job when I graduated either. I think getting a job in the accounting world with like a 2.2 GPA was pretty hard to do at that time. So I did stick around that summer and help my dad out when he was ill and my mom was working. But eventually I did, at the end of the summer, get a great job. I got a job at Hartshafter and Marks, which was a men's manufacturer of suits, really nice suits. They were the #1 suit maker in the country back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And that's when men wore suits every day to work. I remember the first 10 years of coming to work, I had a tie, a vest, a suit on, and it was just what it was, you know, and so you'd always try to go out and find a way to get a nice suit, and all my friends had to buy cheap suits, and I had all these great suits from Hartshafter and Marks, so that was kind of cool. So I had a great start. People that gave me something I hope that you find at RJO is people that help you learn how to do your job and how to do it better. I had that. So, oh yeah, I forgot about this. I was rich. Anybody want to make a guess on the starting salary for 1977 for an internal auditor in accounting, college degree? $6,000, $15,000, in between, $11,000. When I got that first paycheck, it was like, holy shit, what am I going to do with all this money? And as a guy, I did what guys do with it, right? What would you say the first thing I did when I... Stereo was the first. A car was the second. You know, I bought a little pacer. I don't know if anybody knows what a pacer is. Anyhow, I did enter the workforce with a lot of gusto, and that did include a fair amount of beer drinking. But I also had more to prove. I knew to really advance in the accounting world, I was going to need to become a CPA, a certified public accountant. And that was kind of daunting back then. It's still daunting today, but back then there's no computers, so you had to go take the CPA exam over the course of 3 days. So I think it was a half a day on Wednesday, a full day on Thursday, and a full day on Friday. It was really grueling. And you know, I entered that mindset like, how the hell am I going to do this? I didn't really learn much in college, and but I was determined to do it, and I threw myself after review classes. And I think I learned the most about accounting was through my review classes for the CPA exam, and then on the job, at my job. And I got it done. I passed that CPA exam the first time I took it, and that was really a dream that came true for me. Well, now we're coming into, I kept growing and I kept doing well in school. I got married, had kids, and I was working really hard. And this is the point of time in my life where I had the fireside chat, as I kind of tell young guys about, and maybe some young girls too. I worked really hard, but that became the double-edged sword, because when I had a family, working hard wasn't necessarily the right thing. But men, some men, and I'm wired this way, we're like cavemen. You know, when Marines said, you need to work less, you need to be home more at night, you need to stop working Saturdays, I was resentful. I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm just out there working to get a raise so we can get a better house and save money for college. And so we're like cavemen. We're just like going out and finding food for the winter. And that wasn't the right thing. So I got the fireside chat, and Maureen was really good about it because she kind of knew my makeup. And she said, listen, you just do this. You can't work Saturdays anymore unless there's an emergency. And she said, you can go out any night during the week as long as it's business and not monkey business. She says, if it's legitimate business, you can do it. Then she said, if there's no real business, you need to come home. You don't need to work at the office that long. But she said, you're also entitled to one night out with your friends. That was her really understanding my DNA. So I could always, she says, as long as I told her in advance. It's like, if you tell me you're going out Thursday night with your buddies, that's fine. But you're not going out Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night with your buddies. So the other thing is, she said you need to be around the kids in those times, but she said, look, you leave for work early and you come home late, even when you're not monkeying around. She said, I want you to consider either coming home during the dinner hour or staying here in the morning and dropping the kids off at school. And at the time, Johnny O'Brien was working with us, and Johnny was a night owl. He kind of got cranked up at 4 and 5 o'clock. So I knew coming home at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock wasn't going to work. So I opted to drive the kids to school. And so I ended up doing that for 10 years. And great move. But it got me to work late. So I was really lucky I had R.J. O'Brien and people that understood what I was doing, right? That this was something that was important. And so I didn't get to work till 9:15, which is probably not much different than it is today, huh, Lulu? It kind of became a challenge. But anyhow, so working hard, reaching dreams, but learning a life balance was really important. So, on to the next topic. One of the things that I've always had is a big heart. I always worried about other people. So I'm going to read this. So when I was in school, I remember worrying about other kids kids with disabilities, quiet kids, those who didn't seem to have friends. So it was my mission to help them, and I did. And I think that's kind of where my commitment to Misericordia came through. You guys all know I'm pretty passionate about Misericordia. It's a home for disabled kids, adults. And so I made a commitment in life to be involved in those who needed help. And I think even this PEP thing, even what Mary Ellen does, is kind of says what I want to do for this company. You know, I don't think there's very many companies that have a coach for anybody who needs help. And that's part of who I am. All right. I'm a little bit off track here. So, as my career continued to unfold, I did become a successful accountant, a determined business person, and of course my social skills improved significantly, especially after 2 or 3 beers. I learned how to be comfortable being a business leader and mentoring others. I grew confident in making decisions, and very importantly, I could accept that all decisions were not going to be the right decision. I was lucky to have great mentors in my life, and this is a weird one. It's Johnny O'Brien, who is my contemporary. We're best friends, but he was also a mentor to me. He gave me a great opportunity. He believed in me. He surrounded me with great people like Mary Ellen, and we did some amazing things here at R.J. O'Brien. So we have to have mentors in our life. We got to find them. We got to seek them out. We got to believe in them, right? And we got to have a little luck too. But luck just doesn't fall in your lap. Part of luck is making things happen. Okay, you just can't sit around and say, I wish I was lucky today. No, luck happens when you make it happen. So as time rolled on, my ambitions grew and my passion to succeed intensified. I was here at RJO and I wanted RJO to be unique and this is my favorite part, a bit irreverent. You know, I always felt like, okay, I want to make a company that is really great, but yet a bit irreverent. You know, and what do I mean by that? That means maybe more casual, maybe more, we work differently than others, but we don't work less. We accept and we give people a chance who seem different. You know, I've kind of a guy that, I like characters, I always say. You know, and like, that guy's a character. It's like, let's hire him, okay? I mean, so I just, and so many times it has worked out when you give somebody a chance. So I'm going to wrap up with a poem I wrote a few years back after a few glasses of wine. And we all know, you know, what we think like when we have a few glasses of wine in us. But it goes like this. And it's titled, I Had a Dream. I had a dream I could build a great company, a global company, a company respected by all. I had a dream this great company would provide professional opportunities, good jobs for good people, without regard to race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation. Sorry guys. I had a dream this company would allow its employees the flexibility to be great family members. I had a dream this company could and would succeed through recessions, difficult economic environments, and compete all over the world. I had a dream this company would provide a great platform for young professionals to grow and become leaders in their own right. I had a dream this company could serve wonderful clients in wonderful ways, and these customers would love this company. I had a dream this company would be the envy of others, and this dream all came true. It's RJO. Wow. Thank you. All right, I want to end this thing by saying something else before I'm last done. Let me wrap this up because this is important, I think. My approach is not a prescription for you guys. It was unique to me, okay? You know, if I inspire you, that's tremendous. You know, if I didn't inspire you today, that's okay too. Everyone has their own button. But if you have a dream, or you're inspired by something, you got to follow that dream. You got to own it, okay? That dream's not coming true unless you own it. So it's not luck. Luck comes to people that work hard. Dreams come true, but they don't happen without hard work. So follow your dream. Thank you. Okay, one more thing. This is like a fraternity in here, or a sorority. What goes on in this room stays here. I'm going to lose all my capabilities to lead this company if everyone knows I'm such a wussy.
Thank you. That was awesome.
All right.
Thank you. Do you want to? Great. Moving it back there. Thank you so very much. Our next speaker, Jessica McCaskill, has followed a dream. She is the #1 female lightweight boxing champion of the United States. She is #2 in the world with a goal of being #1. Please help me welcome Jessica McCaskill.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, I'll take that. Thank you. It's so funny because that's the first time I've heard Gerry's speech, but we all have a lot of things in common when you'll hear like different highlights of things that we're saying. So just kind of keep an ear out for that. Like Mary Ellen said, I used to be a person with, just one person with a goal. And today I am the #1 U.S. Lightweight female champion in the United States, and my dream is to become a world champion. That's my goal. The question is, how do you get out of your box to reach your goals? The answer to this is what separates you from just being one to becoming #1. So what does that mean? Out of the box to reach your goals. I like to say out of the box and into the ring. Now, what is the box? What does that mean to you? Give me a word or explain what that means to you, the box, your box. Fear, comfort zone. Give me another one. Anybody? Routine. Your comfort zone is your safe place. You know what's going to happen. You can control what happens. It's easy. It's really relaxed because it's the same thing day after day after day. A friend of mine, she put a quote on Instagram, and it said, "A comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there." Okay, so now what is the ring? What is something, give me a word that you relate to a boxing ring. Anything. What'd you say? Fight? Challenge? One more, anybody? Fear? That's the ring. The ring is a place where you go to fight. The ring is a place where you come face to face with your challenges. And it is scary. You can't control anything except for your actions and your reactions. But when you have a goal, that's what you have to do. Get out of your box and into the ring. So let's take that and apply it to a little bit of my life journey. I started boxing in 2008 in St. Louis, Missouri. And I've always had a passion for fitness, but it wasn't boxing until later. It was cheerleading or pom-poms, if you can imagine. Softball, basketball, a little bit of flag football in college, and obviously those things have fallen off. But I still had this passion for fitness, and I was given a boxing fitness class by a friend of mine, and boxing resonated with me, and it allowed me to follow my passion. So in St. Louis, I had a few fights. It was really difficult because there weren't a lot of females in St. Louis, so I just did what I could. I let my instincts, lead me to the next step of this goal. And I had a couple of fights in a national level, and then I moved to Chicago in 2012. Now, moving here, I wanted to continue my amateur career and eventually turn pro, but it was like starting over for me because I had come here, I had never come to Chicago, never visited, no Summertime Shy, I didn't know what that was. And so it just was a big city. So I packed up my truck, me and my dog, and in the middle of the winter, we moved up to Chicago. So this whole process, I didn't know anybody here, I didn't have any family here, no fight people, just me and my dog. And it was a really discouraging, but again, challenge for me to face. So I recognized my challenge. I needed to find a coach, a gym, and I needed to find fights so that I can continue this dream. But it seems really hard to believe. It was the hardest thing ever. It took 9 months for me to find a proper boxing gym. And you're like, why? Can't you just hashtag, Chicago boxing? Well, this was 2012, and Instagram was still fresh. It came about around 2010. So hashtagging wasn't like a thing back then, and things were hard to find. And I did find gyms. I just didn't find specifically what I was looking for. I would go to gyms that I saw on my running route, and they would say, this is an MMA gym, and we do boxing once a week. I wasn't about to change what I wanted my goals to be just because of convenience. So, okay, on to the next. I Googled boxing gym Chicago. I found a couple that I emailed and called, and they said things like, well, we don't make contact here, we just hit the bag. Well, I kind of need to punch somebody in the face, so this isn't gonna work, sorry. But it was something very specific that I was looking for, and I would get discouraged, and it was the easiest thing to do would to quit, and quit early because this was a 9-month process. So instead, I just took a little time off, and I just would do my own thing and work out and just try to stay up with the boxing news, and then go back out there, find people to talk to, try to find some kind of network to get into. And eventually, one email came back. I got one response. And sometimes that's all it takes is just like one tiny glimmer of hope, and it can expand to something really big. So the coach that did email me back is the coach that is still my coach today and my current boxing manager. And so from there, I just started to put myself, build my team, basically. Before I had this team, I had to just motivate myself, and I had to be self-motivated. And when you start to build your team and you start to surround yourself with people that are like-minded, they can help motivate you. They can push you through. They can, turn your bad days upside down. And the great thing about building your team is that, for me, it was just me and my dog, so we would have, one-on-one chats about life. But when you build your team, it's not just, let me call Mike Tyson. He's a boxer. I'm going to put him on my team. Mary Ellen is right here in the office, and she's a personal and professional enhancement coach, and you can use somebody right around you for your team. She also does yoga and wellness, a little bit of plug. But now that I know all of it, I didn't know all of those things. I just saw this lady walking around the office really happy and all the time. But now I know who she is, and I know what she does, and so she can be part of my team. So you can look right next door to build your team. And sometimes, don't forget, it's not always about you. There are people who are out there needing somebody, needing a gym to go to, needing someone to talk to, and you can be a part of somebody else's team, and the reward is just as great. The learning is just as great. You'll definitely get something out of that. Another important reason why you need to make sure that you build up your team and surround yourself with like-minded people is that you'll come across things when you're on your journey and when you're trying to reach your goal and you're going up against your challenges. You're going to come across things that you've never done before, things that you don't want to do, things that you have to do on your own. I have to walk into that ring by myself every single time, but that doesn't mean I don't have a team that's behind me, supporting me. So from there, I did find my coach, I found my gym, and we had a couple of Chicago fights. I was in a national tournament here in Chicago on an amateur level. I won Golden Gloves in 2 different weight classes here in Chicago, and I took the leap into turning pro, which is a whole nother bucket of challenges in itself. And now I work for the gym. I teach classes on Wednesday nights. People come to me when they have questions about health or fitness or how to change their lifestyle. I teach the kids every day at 4:30. As crazy as those kids are, that's something that is also now my passion. And I've been using boxing to navigate that passion. So it's so rewarding, and it's a confidence builder. I mean, the things that this has led me to just by following my next instinct towards my passion, it's been a really great reward. So I just want you to figure out what motivates you, what's worth getting in the ring for. Follow your passion and let it lead you, and just let your instincts lead you. I was told that I don't look like a boxer. I'm too nice to be a boxer. So I have a little bit of a video here just to kind of show you guys some snippets of what I look like in the ring, I guess. I do have my shirt. This is from my first fight. The first time I won, they held my hands up, and I decided to make a shirt out of it, so. All right, guys.
Jessica needs to work in March.
That last part, I think it doubled up because of the screens, but they've done a mini documentary on me. It is on YouTube. It's like 18 minutes long, but it goes through kind of my day-to-day, just kind of the struggles, the RJO plus the boxing. I get up at about 4 o'clock every morning. I don't get home until maybe 9 o'clock every night. And so that was a little snippet, and it just talks about how I get to work with the kids, and I want to be a good role model for them, and I want the little girls to be able to look up to me and grow up thinking that they can do whatever they want to do, whatever their passions are. It doesn't have to be boxing, whatever their passions are. And I do have a fight coming up July 29th. It is an intercontinental title. I will be fighting for the ABO, American Boxing Organization belt. It is my first 8-rounder. I am headlining. This is the first time a female's ever headlined in Illinois. So I'm breaking barriers, and it all started from just pushing through and recognizing my challenge and that one email that I got back from my coach. So take every little piece of hope or any little sign, and just take it and run with it, and just find your goals. And if you don't have goals, make goals, and then work your ass off trying to get those goals.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica. Wow. Jessica really has so much more to say really about the journey, and she will be leading our PEP program on August 29th. So I'll be sending out a flyer for that, and I think she's going to be teaching us some boxing moves as well, so we can all work for Gerry and margins then, right? So our next speaker, Dave Toth, I have had the pleasure of working with for a long time. And Dave, it's been so inspiring for me to watch you truly make this dream come true of following his passion for beer and having a dream of a brewery. And it's really been just a really inspiring movement forward in your life. So please help me welcome Dave Toth.
Thanks, Mary Ellen. I'm going to touch on Mary Ellen and some of her, some of the things that I've learned from her over the past 5 or 6 years now. Time flies. Jessica, what an amazing and articulate story, an impressive young lady, and wait till you hear Iulia's story. I wonder why I'm even standing up here with these people. And Gerry, I know you have my resume from 10 years ago in your pocket, but to remind you, I was a tree hugger when I got out of college at Gelderman, and a lot of you are younger, you don't remember that name was, or the company was bought by ED&F Mann at the time, it became MF Global. And that company, I loved working at that company. I worked there for 14 years. The Gelderman folks that I know you know, and the O'Briens know probably very well, beyond reproach, great company. After taking a couple of risks at a few other companies and working at UBS for a while, actually when I was at UBS, when you had an FX faction here, we made a sales call on them. And it was the first time I was ever in an RGO office, and I'm like, this place feels exactly like Gelderman. And I tried another couple opportunities, so I don't know how many jobs I had between the UBS thing and coming to work here. But everything that you've done in creating the culture here and navigating us through the 07 through 10 or however long it was stuff has been amazing. You guys have got to appreciate this company. I don't know how long it's going to be before I retire to this brewery, but it's going to be tough leaving. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to do technicals as I do. Getting the brewery, when we were working on building out the tap room, how many of y'all are familiar with, I know at least one person familiar with Pink Floyd? But there's a few younger ones who, well, you'll come to know them. But one of their songs that, well, there's a ton of them that I really love, but one in particular, there's some lyrics in them that say, when I was a child, I caught a fleeting glimpse out of the corner of my eye. I turned to look, but it was gone. I cannot put my finger on it now. The child is grown, the dream is gone. I have become comfortably numb. And I sing that really good after I've had a bunch of high gravity beers, but I'm not going to do that today. Part of the, I didn't even know I had a passion other than technical analysis on the markets until a buddy of mine said, hey, let's go brew some beer at this BOP shop in Chicago. BOP meaning brew on premise. And in 1977, and for a number of years, we were going to this place and brewing our beer there. And it was awesome. We made some really great beer. And then out of nowhere in the fall of 2011, we had a scheduled brewing date. And I called on a Monday. And on Friday, I called to confirm it. And the manager there said, well, we're closing this weekend. I was working from home that day, and my wife was standing there, and she said, you look like you lost your best friend. I'm like, well, yeah, I kind of did. And for a number of months there until the next summer, I mean, I stooped all the way down to drinking Heineken. So it was, let me tell you, life was tough at that point. I coached a lot of baseball and played a lot of baseball, and this one assistant coach I had, we were almost through the entire season. So this had to be like June or July of, what year was 2002? After going through the entire season, I turned to him, I don't know, we were up big or down big one game, and we're BSing at the end of the dugout. And I said, he tells me, he goes, oh, I'm, my little homebrewing group and I, we're closing up shop. I'm like, you homebrew? He goes, yeah, we grow our own hops and stuff. I'm like, so within about the next 6 or 7 months, in January of the following year, January 2003, we got a couple other guys together. We put some equipment together in this guy's garage that you're looking at now. That system took a number of iterations, but we started brewing in January of 2003. A couple years later, we started our fall Brew-a-Palooza. Started with 35 guests, where it was kind of a little Oktoberfest deal, and we're brewing up a batch of beer at the time because that was still pretty early in the craft beer days, and it was new to everyone. So to see us brew, people were coming. It's great stuff. We won some medals up in Madison, Wisconsin, a great beer town and a great beer state. So we knew we were doing some really great stuff. And on our 8th year, that turned out to be our final year of our Palooza because it got too big. That was in 2012. We had 250 people at this event, and went out into the street, and we got a special permit and everything. It was awesome. And there was a lot of Miller Lite drinkers there that were coming up to us and saying, you guys got great beer. So I turned to other our buddies, and we were all thinking the same thing. We got to take it to the next level and start a microbrewery. So that's what we did. We spent the next couple of years researching it out, and the closer we got to it, the more that when you start cutting checks and having to really commit to the entire job, the entire program, then you start finding out how many people are really committed to the same dream. And that all kind of broke apart. After a couple of years of trying, and I'm like, now what am I going to do? How many of you are familiar with Lou Holtz? A lot less people than Pink Floyd. Huh? Lou Holtz is arguably one of the greatest college football coaches of all time. And he's most notable for his coaching at Notre Dame. And I was privy to a cassette tape, a recording of a speech that he gave to ConAgra. ConAgra is a global food conglomerate out of Omaha, I think, and they owned a broker group called, at least a portion of which was Gelderman in Chicago. And our fearless leader of our group, Jim Curley, that I know you know very well, you talk about a character. Well, somehow he got us, for our little financial futures division, each a copy of this tape. And that had to be 1987, 88, 89, somewhere in there. I still have that cassette. I've about worn it out. It's been in my car for however many, 20 years, 30 years. And Lou Holtz, if I had to pick one coach to win one game at any point in time, it would be Lou Holtz. Not because he knew more of the X's and O's than any other great coaches, but I doubt that there's any greater motivator in the coaching ranks, or maybe in the world, than this guy. And he was a prolific writer, and he spoke to companies and universities. And so about 25 years before I came to know Mary Ellen, there were a number of principles of his that really resonated with me. I kind of ended up leading my life based on these. One of them is I don't think you can do anything in life and be successful without being enthusiastic. Now, Lou would say enthusiastic comes from love of God, or the original Greek origin being possessed by God, which means you believe in yourself and what you're doing. He says enthusiasm will turn average into greatness and fatigue into energy, and with enthusiasm you can get awful lot of stuff done. And you've heard 2 stories so far about that, and you're going to hear another one. But without it, you're dead. Or you're in that comfortably numb zone that Roger Waters talked about. A positive attitude. It's difficult to accomplish much without one. It's very easy to lose sight of a positive attitude when things aren't going well for you. But that's the hardest time to maintain one, but also the most important time to maintain one, because a lot of things are going to go wrong just in life in general, let alone on your quest. So it really helps to maintain a positive attitude. And you got to walk the walk on that. And you don't want to dwell on the negatives, because that's just a downward spiral. Lou would also say, expect 3 crises every year. And the more that you anticipate things going wrong, and then, or problems or challenges, the easier it is to deal with them. And then you become, it's not, a few things become insurmountable. I had a number of challenges all the way through. The most important one, the first one, was when the rest of my buddies, and we're still buddies, we vacation together and all, my homebrewing buddies, when they all kind of bolted on this thing, and I'm like, now what am I going to do? I still love doing this. Well, I ended up finding another couple of key partners and good friends of mine, and 18 months after that, which was the February of last year, we opened up the brewery. Now getting to Mary Ellen and her program. I was tailgating at a Purdue game a number of years ago, and a couple of years before. I knew Mary Ellen at the time, but before she started this program. And one of the newbies that joined our tailgating group for a season, his wife was into this life coaching stuff. And I said, I didn't even know what it was at the time, and I'm like, I'm 50-some years old. What is she going to teach me about life? So I didn't have the correct perception of it. And boy, was I wrong, because when Mary Ellen started her program here, right out of the gate, these 2 wheels, especially the energetic self-perception wheel, which if you haven't had this discussion with her yet, you need to. It was reinforcing everything that I'd been listening to Lou Holtz about and kind of leading my life for the prior 25 years. So I thought, yeah, these 2 people cannot be wrong. But it was way beyond that. She taught me how to be a better listener. Ask my wife. She'll probably deny that, but I have become a better listener than I used to be, and a host of other things about how you have total control over how you react to things. You don't have any control over anything else or anybody else, but how you react to things, you have total control over. And it gets back to enthusiasm, positive attitude, and all the stuff that will end up increasing your chances of being successful. Talk about failures and challenges all along the way. Gerry had them, Jessica had them, we all have them. But if you want to accomplish things like Ben Franklin and you mentioned Ben Franklin, U.S. leader, right? All positives. He had tons of failures in his life that he learned from, which is what helped him grow. This is a picture of our brewery a day before our equipment was delivered. We had already pushed back the delivery of this 2 times. It was supposed to be delivered in August of 2015. Ended up, we forced the delivery in late November of 2015, just so we can make an early 2016 start. We didn't even have a roof on. We had to have special coating on the floor underneath the brew house, but we got enough of the roof on. You can see it's still unroofed for the other half, but just enough of the roof on for the installers of this equipment to bring it in. So we didn't know if we were going to make it, but it's just, you do the work you have to do to get it done. Any of the problems and challenges that we have is a lot like trading and analyzing the futures markets. You're going to be wrong a lot more than you're going to be right. And it's imperative, whether it's in the markets or in life, when we make mistakes, don't worry about them. Or you face challenges, you fix them. If you made a mistake, you learn from it, you fix them, you go forward. As opposed to, and nobody likes making mistakes. Nobody does. But it's a part of life. And if you dwell on it and allow that to get you in a downward spiral, it's really hard to grow as an individual. So just understand, there's going to be challenges and mistakes and errors. Fix them, grow from it, learn from it, and then go forward. Don't worry, be happy. Fix it. Mary Ellen will tell you that stepping outside of your comfort zone is where the magic happens. Without being able to do so, it's really difficult to grow as an individual. You stay in that comfortably numb state that will not allow you to grow. So there'll always be roadblocks to anything you want to do, your normal day-to-day job, let alone some kind of dream you're really passionate about. But there's no alternative but to address the challenges, learn from them, and beat them. Jessica's a great example for it. Gerry is. Anybody who's successful, wait till you hear Iulia's story. This is a picture in July where we just broke ground in July of 2015, and a year later. I'm taking a chapter from Gerry getting choked up. But we could not have done it without being passionate, enthusiastic about what we were trying to do, and believing in ourselves. I can't tell you how many 12th-hour deadlines that we met on the last second, but it was all worth it, and now it's time for a beer. Well, it's time for a beer after Iulia speaks.
Thank you so much. Yes, we have a treat of some really good beer at the end of this program. So thank you so much, Dave. And our next speaker, Iulia Ilie, has an incredible story of growing up in a communistic country and then what it's like to be in the United States. And like when I heard her story, I was totally blown away. We take so much for granted, and you will be inspired when you hear her. Thank you.
Everybody has a dream, like Gerry said. Mine is called the American Dream. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Mary Ellen, for the introduction, and thank you all of you for your inspirational stories. My name is Iulia Ilie, and I've worked for our jail since 2011 as a financial information system analyst in the finance department. There are very few people I shared this story with, so this is very emotional for me, and thank you for your time. For those of you who don't know, my story starts in Romania. For those of you who don't know, Romania is a tiny country, 3/4 of the size of Illinois, with a population of 20 million people and a GDP per capita of $9,000 per year versus US 50,000. But the most famous thing about Romania is that it is house to Dracula's castle. I grew up in communist Romania, led by brutal dictator Nicolae Ceausescu, during the period called by the regime the Golden Age. If I were to describe the time of my life, it would be hunger, cold, and dark. Ceausescu modeled the country at that time after North Korea. So if you guys have ever seen the North Korean parades, that's what we had to do. They were mandatory for everyone. As kids, we were forced to participate in these parades. At the beginning of the 1980s, the regime imposed the so-called Population Scientific Nutrition Program, documenting the need for calories, food rations, and weight standards for the Romanians. As a result, the population was food deprived, while the ruling party was living in opulence. We had monthly rations for basics like bread, milk, sugar, cooking oil. For example, we were allowed half a loaf of bread per family per day. There was no central heat and no hot water in apartment buildings in winter. Imagine living through a Chicago winter without heat in your home. We would basically go to sleep in our winter clothes. It was also dark. Power was cut a few hours at night in the winter, and I'd be forced to do my homework at candlelight. But the worst thing, absolute worst thing for me as a kid is that we only had one TV channel. Broadcasting only 2 hours every day, mostly communist propaganda. And we only had 30 minutes of cartoons every week on Saturday. My daughter cannot understand this concept. Oh, wait a minute. This is a typical line to buy bread back in the 80s. One winter, when I was 11 years old, after waiting 7 hours in line in cold weather before Christmas, that was the time when the regime will allow us more exotic foods like oranges and bananas. Finally, the grocery store got delivered the oranges. We are only allowed 5 per person. You were supposed to bring your own bag. They wouldn't sell you a bag there, and I forgot my bag at home. I got my 5 oranges and I was carrying them, but the mass of people around me did not allow me to get out. It wasn't a line, it was just like a mob, a mass of people, everybody trying to buy these oranges. I suddenly dropped an orange on the ground, and then I made a mistake to try to pick it up. The moment I got down to pick it up, the mass of people closed on top of me. I was trampled, stepped on, I couldn't breathe, I was screaming for help. Finally, some people pulled me out. I had no oranges and no jacket, but I was alive. I told myself that day that I would never, ever, ever wait in massive long lines for anything else in my life, not even for the newest Samsung. In December of 1989, we started hearing rumors about demonstrations against the regime. We got our news on a little radio where we could find BBC broadcast. Protests started around the country. This was the first revolution to be broadcasted live on TV ever in the world. I watched it all on the TV. I was 13 years old. The demonstrations, the shootings, the mass confusion. The dictator was caught on Christmas Eve, tried quickly, and executed on Christmas Day. His execution by firing squad was filmed and broadcasted on national TV that night. We all waited for hours to watch, to see with our own eyes that he's dead. That's how much we despised him. By early 90s, we were finally freed of the dictator and the Communist Party. While there were good things, obviously, the freedom of speech, freedom of press, free markets, opening of the borders. But after the euphoria of the newfound freedom, the harsh reality hit us. Turned out many former members of the Communist Party got rich after the revolution. The worst thing was that state-owned enterprises were privatized, which was natural, but a lot of people lost their jobs. You have these huge factories that were sold for nothing to some former Communist Party members, and then they would turn around and sell the land for millions and millions of dollars. We lost all our savings because the currency devalued by hundreds of times. While we had money during communism, there was nothing in the stores to buy, no food in the grocery stores. By then, the grocery stores were fully equipped, but we had no money. My family was way worse off economically after the revolution. We were free, but we were very poor. I wanted to do what I can to help my mom and dad and my brother. In 1997, I was 19 years old, and I had an opportunity to get a job in a strawberry farm in rural England. It was very hard work, 14 hours work days in the fields, or there was a packing factory. But I was happy to have my chance to make money, send home to my parents, support them. But while I was there, I discovered something. What do you think was the most surprising thing for me there? Seeing people smiling, strangers smiling, and saying hello even though they didn't know you. In Romania, people don't smile. They are so burdened by getting by every day, they are suspicious of a stranger smiling at them. They'll think you either want to scam them or you're crazy. In 1999, in 1999, I had an opportunity to come to the United States. I was 21 years old. I had enough savings for a plane ticket, but that left me with only, I think $20 in my pocket. I've never lived away from home other than when I was in England, but back then I went with some friends. But this time, nobody wanted to move 5,000 miles away from home. I knew I had to take this chance. I knew I'd rather regret what I did than something I didn't do. The lowest point was in New York around that time when I got a part-time job in an office. And I got fired 2 days later because I was absolutely clueless of what am I supposed to do in an office in the United States. I didn't even know what an invoice was. I spoke English, but I didn't know how an office and how I didn't know how to take a voicemail, write down a message. It was completely clueless. So I got fired. Well, that moment, I knew I had to change something, otherwise I would not make it. I would not be fulfilled. So I decided to move to Chicago, to go back to school. I moved to Chicago in 2001 and went to DePaul University for a bachelor's in finance, and I graduated in 2004. 2008, I became an American citizen. July 25, 2008, I took the oath of allegiance. That was the happiest day of my life. When I raised my hand and took the oath to the United States, I told myself I would never ever take this country and the opportunities it offered me for granted, especially my right to vote. Back in communist Romania, you had the right to vote in the sense that you would go to the polls and vote for the only presidential candidate on the ballot and the only party on the ballot. I love this country and the freedom it offers me. By 2012, I could have said I reached the American dream, but I had a job, I was an American citizen, I had a house, I had a kid, but I felt I wasn't done. That was not it for me. So in 2014, I decided to go back for a master's degree. My American dream became my dream for my American daughter. She was my motivation. I wanted to make her proud, show her that hard work, faith, and perseverance will always lead you to success. I had to make a lot of sacrifices to reach my dream, but my RGO family supported me all along in pursuing this dream. And a month ago, I graduated with a master's in predictive analytics from DePaul University. This is the story of my American dream. I'm still not done achieving it, and I have no idea where it would lead me, but I know that you have to take risks, get out of your comfort zone, don't give up just because it's hard, and like I said, I'd rather regret something I did than something I didn't do. Thank you.
Tony Robbins, who is a coach and kind of a motivational guy, he just says that, like a passion, when you find it, you just get possessed by it, and you're thinking about it all the time, and I get that. However, a lot of times we really don't know what that passion is yet. We really haven't found it, and that's really normal. And that's maybe you can have a goal or a passion of just being the best person that you can be, or to grow in life, or to serve people. But you don't exactly know what it looks like. That's all right. That's when you just keep doing the next little step that comes to you. Just doing the next step. I'm going to share a really quick story, which I wasn't planning on, if everybody's all right. This is just a story of listening to the little whisper. So I have a habit every morning, and I've had it for years. My morning time is my precious time, and it's time where I read something nourishing to my soul. I'll have prayer and meditation time. So a number of years ago, I'm sitting in my chair, I have a cat on my lap, and it just came to me, write Peggy Mitchell. And for some of you who remember Colleen Mitchell, who was our president, Peggy was her mom. And I lost my mother when I was 22, and Peggy Mitchell was just always very nurturing and maternal to me. So I'm like, write Peggy Mitchell. And I'm like, I am way too comfortable. I got this cat on my lap, and I don't even know what I would say to Peggy Mitchell. But I'm like, listen to the voice, Mary Ellen. So I got up, and I got a card. And I just started writing. I didn't even know what I was going to write. I just started writing, and it was something like, you know, isn't God great? Like, I know that you lost your husband, but now you have these grandbabies that you just get to love, and then whatever else I wrote. And I mailed it. I had no idea, but the day that she received it would have been her 40th wedding anniversary with her husband. So it's just like the little whisper. We get these whispers, but so often we just dismiss them. And so what we're all suggesting is follow the little whispers. You don't know where they're going to lead. You don't know the impact that you're going to have on people. All right, beer, right?